our dear friend Josep Curto from IE Business School, and he's going to give you all the details. Let's enjoy the case.
Well, it's fantastic. Thank you so much for reaching this point of the event. For me, it's a pleasure for many reasons. The first time is I'm here for the first time in Istanbul, so I had the chance to discover a little bit the city, the people, the food. Well, the food I already know it, but it's always better to eat local rather than outside. You know what I mean? And the second thing, to be able to have this kind of more interactive case, it's always more funny when you discover that you can play with data and you can generate insights and value. Even though this is just a small case, we will do it in 1 hour, you will see that, well, we can say something. So having said that, let me introduce myself a little bit more. So I'm a professor at a business school, but I do where I'm giving tech lectures in many programs, all of them related with big data, analytics, business intelligence, data management, and data brokerage. That means how to monetize data. But beyond that, and that's one of the beauties, at least from my point of view in the context of IE, plenty of the professors, they work in their own companies or for vendors, like in the case IBM or SAP. In my case, I'm an entrepreneur as well, and this is part of the spirit of IE. And I have a couple of companies. One of them is related with market research, data-driven market research. So I try to understand what's happening in the context of these markets where data is becoming more and more relevant. And the second part, I work had a really long title, and that's why you will see CDSO, which means Chief Data Science Officer. And what I do is to, create algorithms related with behavioral analytics. And I have plenty of books, sorry, just in Spanish, okay, because there is a gap in this market, so I decided to fill this gap. And most of the times I'm speaking about, what we can do, what we can achieve with data and algorithms around the world. Just last week, I was in Jakarta, Manila, Singapore, Taipei, and this week I'm here, and then I will go to Baku, and then to Tiflis, then I will go to Barcelona, and then to Madrid, so I'm jumping all over again. And I have sometimes a little bit of jet lag, just sometimes, not today. Okay, so let's start. Let me introduce a little bit the case. It's a short case. It differs a lot of those cases that you can find in traditional business schools, which they have 12 pages, and at the end, just 2 of them are the real information. So what I try to do whenever we are doing these kind of cases in our programs, those cases that are related with data, we go straight to the point, just what is relevant. And this way, we can start considering and thinking what we need to do. So let me introduce Terry. Terry is a journalist in New York, and as many other journalists, he has realized that, come on, every time that we need to dig deeper into something, data is becoming more and more relevant. And one of the things that Terry is interested in is to know something that is happening in his own city. And in particular, it's about what is happening with the homeless, how we are helping them. Is there any kind of service in the city that is helping the homeless? And if that, how many people we can find, Is there any reason? Because the people that is using the shelter, there is more and more or less. So he wants to know about that because he wants to write an article and create awareness. But he discovered that, he alone, he cannot do this. Why? Because suddenly he found that New York already has a department, the Department of Homelessness Services, that is trying to help all those people. And this department, as in many other cities and many other institutions, they believe in open data. As they believe in open data, what they did is to try to summarize what is happening, which kind of, situations are happening with their services, in particular, who is using and when is using those services, and they publish that in their websites. So Terry found that there is a data set that he can use to start understanding what is happening with these services in this particular city. And he approaches us and he told us, can you help me? So this is the case. Okay, for those who are competing and want to solve the case, now you need to follow our presenter and Marcos as well. Upstairs, you will be trying to solve the case during 1 hour. Okay, you will receive the data set, and you will have the complete and quite short, because it's just 1 page business case. And the best 2 teams, they will be chosen, and they will go back, and they will present their insights in front of everyone, and then we will choose the best one. And as you already know, there are some prizes for the winner. And I think that prizes is, it's a discount in our programs, a scholarship, sorry, and the other part is could be a book or something like that.
You're giving a very eye-opening book on machine learning.
So that's the idea. So the ones that want to compete, they should go upstairs. So, and the rest remain here, and we will continue the solution of the case, and then we will join all together again. So, please.
So whoever is working on the case, follow me and Marcos, please. Thanks for that.
And then is when I'm alone speaking alone here. Okay, at least one. Awesome. It's almost empty. That's fun. It's not the first time.
Really?
Yeah, when we have the case, what happens is it's most of the time I'm alone.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm the final jury. So I cannot, they don't let me to discover what they are doing, what they're trying to present, you know what I mean? Okay, so awesome. You're going to have the chance to discuss how to solve this case and not to fight against the data. So let's start with the beginning, okay? So Terry, what has he done is to create few questions that he wants to know for sure, you know? So how was the evolution of the shelter service? What type of people? Who is in more need? Is there any seasonality effect? Is there a correlation between the total number of people using the shelters each day and unemployment rate? Had like several questions because he wants to create awareness in this article, as you can imagine. So the good part, and let's discuss for a moment, whenever we start doing data analytics, because this is not going to be as complex in order to need big data. It's not going to be as complex as needing, you know, deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence. No, this is just the starting point of analysis. So we are going to use quite easy techniques. And let me tell you one thing between you and me. You can use Excel to solve this case. But, come on, I work as a data scientist. I'm not going to use Excel. You know, I cannot use Excel. My professional background is against that. So I'm going to use other tools, and I'm going to introduce a little bit, just a little bit, about the tools a data scientist can use to analyze this information. So which is going to be the process that we're going to follow? The first part is to understand the business. And this is a simple case, for sure. The idea is, you know, we have these shelter services. You know, we know that what they are trying to help is the homeless people in New York. So the case is quite simple. It's not a complex business model. Okay? That's the starting point always. You need to deeply understand what it's all about. Because otherwise, you cannot help the company, you cannot help the institution, or you cannot help society. That's the starting point. Okay? If you don't have this knowledge, then you need someone who has the domain. So that's why most of the times we speak about that we have a team, not just one-man army. We have someone with us that helps us to understand the domain. We We have someone with us that has the knowledge of creating, these data platforms, which is most of the times called the big data engineer. And we have someone that helps to push the change that we are trying to set up in this new environment. Because this is about changing the culture, changing the company, changing the institution. So we need someone that is expert on change management. So that means that at least we need 4 people in our team. Okay, and now I'm alone. And that happens. When you are a startup, for example, you are a one-man army and you try to do all the things, trying to nurture your culture, your data-driven culture, trying to create the pipeline. So in this case, it will be quite easy. So remember, those are our questions. Second part. Our colleagues, which are upstairs, they receive, first, one data set. And this data set is just the output of what this service is capturing every day. So every day they have a number of, a date of census, and then the total adults in shelter, the total children in shelter, the total individuals in shelter, the single adult men in shelter. So our first step is always understand what we have. And in this particular case, it's just a collection of metrics, numbers. And then for sure, what we have is a date. We know exactly when this event happens, when these people, adults, families with children, singles, being man and woman, are in the shelter and they are using those services. This is what we know, okay? And there is another data set, because remember that the last question refers if there is any correlation between shelter services and unemployment. So we have access to another data set. But it's not a data set controlled by this service. It's a data set from the government that tries, to summarize what is happening in unemployment. And there is a trick, because real life, it's always full of tricks. The worst part of trying to analyze something is that sometimes you don't have the data. And sometimes, if the data exists, it's not in the right format. And you need to do something. And in particular, in this case, this information is on daily basis. But if you search for the other information, which is the link that they have in the case, you will discover that, that information is interesting. It's information on country level, on employment at country level. It's information on state level, and it's information on metropolitan area level. So our colleagues, they need to choose which is the best and the right database that they are going to mix with this one to answer the last question. And as you can imagine, it's not only about that. When we speak about data understanding, it's about, how much data do we have, if there are any data quality issues in the data. In this particular case, I have reduced, the complexity of those issues, just a few surprises that they will find. One of them is there are some extra empty spaces, which, create some kind of distortion when you load the data into anything. So you need to clean that part. And you know that the Excel files or the text files sometimes they have like extra information that is not relevant for the analysis, so they need to delete that part. Just a couple of tricks, which is, I didn't do anything. It's just part of the reality. This is open data that we can access directly. Most of the times when you are working in these projects, it's harder. The data has no quality, so you need to apply more sophisticated techniques. Or what could be worse, the data is not there. It doesn't exist. We need to generate the data whenever we are developing the project. And that's the beauty of that, is when we start deploying and creating projects that are more rich. We start adding sensors everywhere. But in our case, it's so simple. So once you know that, come on, it's quite easy, this initial data set, just a date and some metrics, you go to the preparation. So what I did is to, this is the standard process. First, you download the data. Then you do the data quality check, what I just told you, just a few tricks here and there. Depending on the tool you are using, the tool is able to recognize those data quality issues. by itself. Sometimes it's the case, sometimes not. And then you start the analysis. And remember that we have like several types of questions. As a data scientist, part of your job is recognizing which type of questions do you have. So let's go back from one moment and why I choose those tools, R and Tableau, to solve them. So let's go back one moment and say, how was the evolution of the shelter service during the previous years? So what I'm asking here is about the past, which is the past performance of this service. This is what we call just descriptive analysis, no? Or sometimes in the market it's called business intelligence. So that means that in order to solve the first question, and in particular the second and the third, we are going to use just business analytics. That's all. We don't need anything else. Okay? That means that whenever we choose a tool that is going to help us, it should be in that segment of the market, context of business intelligence. However, when we jump on the other ones, no? For example, in the fourth one, we are going to analyze if the season produce any kind of effect on the use of shelter services, which means that we are going to search for hidden patterns, okay? Which means that we are going to fall into the context of predictive analytics. So we need to use a tool in that area. And that's the job of the data scientist. This is what they are paying me, you know, to choose, to know exactly which kind of tools as the starting point are the ones that I'm going to use. So that means that I choose a couple of them, R and RStudio. Tableau and R. So Tableau is a business intelligence tool, and in particular, one tool that helps you to explore the data, and that's why I choose it. So let me show you the tools. I'm not expecting that our colleagues that are competing, they are going to use Tableau. I'm expecting that they try to solve this problem with whatever they have available, but because this is what happens in company. In companies or institutions, you have some tools, and sometimes it's not possible to use more sophisticated tools, so you need to play with that. Tableau is a tool that we can use in the context of the academia because they have an academic program. So if you are students, you can ask for one license for 1 year, which is amazing because they love, you know, the students to discover these tools and to try to learn about them. R is open source, so it's awesome as well because you can use it by default. Okay, so let me show you one moment while it's all about Tableau. So this is Tableau. So the starting point of Tableau, as you can see, what I did is to load the information into the system. And it's just like opening the Excel file. And you can see that information that we saw, you know, the date and all the metrics, one after another. But Tableau is not just to play as Excel, it's just to explore in a way that it's iterative. So let me show you for one moment how to solve one of the questions. We want to know the evolution of the shelter service through time. Okay, this is our first question. So which means that first is about the evolution. Which is the best way to represent evolution? What do you think? A timeline, exactly. So part of our job is to think properly which is the best way to represent data, to communicate data, because we want theory to understand how the system has evolved, how the service was, you know, changing every year. And we have to learn what is called the data visualization principles, which means first understanding which is the goal, in this case, to show the evolution. Second, understand which type of information do we have. In this case, we will have, you know, temporal data. Third, we need to understand, you know, how we are going to represent. And from that, and which is the density of data. So there are many different, and we have categories and all, we want to split them. So based on that, what we do is to finally decide which is the best way to represent. And in our case, it's as easy, it's going to be just a timeline, okay? a line chart. Let's put it this way. However, and that's the beauty of it, you know what? Maybe you have no idea about the data principles. Maybe no one told you about that. Maybe there is no university that told you about the data visualization principles. What are you going to do then? Because you can make a mistake choosing the wrong graph. And maybe we will find it just in 1 hour that they choose the wrong graph to represent the information. It's easy to make a mistake. Or sometimes you make a mistake on purpose because you want to, modify what, the perception of that person that is going to make a decision. Okay? So the funny part is that some tools, they try to help you to avoid those errors, to avoid those problems, and this is one of them. So doing the analysis here, it's extremely easy. Let's search for the total individuals in shelter. When you drag and drop this into this tool, suddenly it just computes the aggregation of the amount of people that use the shelter during, the whole time that we are analyzing. But this is not enough. We want to see the evolution. So then you got the data of consensus, and then you drag that into the system. And using black magic, remember, it's like in Excel you need to create this aggregation, but here it's just in such an automated way, the system enhances our productivity, our intelligence. Behind what it has is this automation, this machine learning. That's the beauty of what is happening right now. And as you can see, as I told you before, there is some kind of errors, so we need to, a little bit clean a little bit. We exclude that column. It's empty, so we can avoid. And one part that I love is, you know what? We don't want to see a table. We want Terry to help to easily understand what's happening. So what we do is like, instead of using a table, we let the system to propose us which is the best representation, or which ways do I have to represent something. And we will discuss, timeline, line chart is a good way. As you can see, the system has those data visualization principles embedded, and it's going to help you to choose one that it makes sense to represent the data. And this way you are going to make less errors. So for example, let's choose the timeline. And as you can see, now we can see a pattern. But come on, if we want to help Terry, it's not enough. Let's add more information. So for example, let's add back these individuals in shelter as the label. And then suddenly it's clear that just in a few clicks. And as you can see, and now I'm explaining step by step. But after explaining one time how I create a graph, the next ones I'm returning to the PowerPoint. So as easy as this, you are able to create a graph and see what's happening. What happened here? What can you tell me? Is there anything that you can tell me? Can you observe any kind of pattern? Oh, there is nothing important that we can say Terry. Because remember, at the end, what we want is that Terry has better information, that is going to help him to first create an article, and second, to dig deeper. Because this data is just the starting point, the tip of the iceberg. See, he needs to, to search for more information to complete the story that is behind the data. He needs the context. Something that we don't have right now. We don't have the context. We cannot make up the story, but we can observe patterns. Anything? Or you are so shy? Exactly. There is something weird here. But the beauty of this is that this data was extracted yesterday. And it refers to 2017, so it's not a complete year. And the rest, and that's a really good point. That's the first pain. That's the first thing that we need to inform Terry. Because Terry, remember, he is not data savvy, and we are going to help him. So if we just send this information, he's going to make a wrong decision. And the wrong decision will be, hey, I don't know what happened, but something fantastic happened in 2017 that, less people is using the shelter services. So we need to avoid him to make that assumption, because it's not real. Really good point. Something else? So let's forget about 2017. What we observed from 2013 and up to 2016.
So similarly, 2013 could be half year, or again not the whole year?
Yeah.
Because there's
So they start, and that happens with open data. You know? One day they decide, now we are going to measure everything. But what happens is not complete. So in reality, the complete data that we can work with, we can compare, in reality is 2014, 2015, and 2016. And with these 3 years, obviously we are seeing a pattern. More and more people in New York is using the shelter services, and that's the message. And we can, for sure, and let me return for a moment to the slide, you know. Okay? So what I did, or what we need to do as a data scientist, is to help our users, which are our stakeholders, to understand better what they have in front of them. And in particular, we can add tooltips here, and I didn't add one there, you know, to say when, until which moment do you have data, and when you start to measure things. And this way, you are helping them. And for sure, it's not just that you send this PowerPoint. What you do, for sure, is to speak with them. What you did here, how you did it, and what you observe. Okay, so more or less we have information about the evolution. More and more people is using the shelter services. But that was just trying to present information on a specific aggregation, which is year. What if we break that into day? Wow. If you break that into day, what we are seeing is something more interesting. As you can see, you know, more or less, you know, the system, no, the shelter system is providing services to the same amount of people. But it's around, you know, 50,000 people, 51, 52, you know, 53. But there are some specific days of the year where the services, you know, we have, you know, an explosion. So what we can tell here is, come on, more or less, we are always having the same kind of users of the system, but in some days of the year, you need to understand what's happening there. It could be Christmas, it could be summer, it could be because, you know, of the weather, a terrible day, a really cold winter. Okay, we need to know that. And we don't know, we don't have that information. We can expand for sure, and that goes obviously beyond our case with weather data. And with weather data, then we can start digging, you know, is weather a reason why we have these, you know, anomalies? For sure, and then we can continue. But at least, with the scope of this case, we can, you know, guide Terry to search for the context of those days. Okay, and now what? The second question was related about the different types. So we already have split that information. And what we did is just to represent that information in several categories. Whenever you want to represent information of several categories, what you do is to use bar charts. It helps a lot. And it's not just about that. As you can see, I'm representing temporal evolution plus bar charts categories at the same time, trying to help Terry to understand better what's happening. As you can see, most of the times, you know, we have more adults in the shelter, you know, and the difference between adults and children, well, remember, 2013 is not complete, 2017 is not complete, but the rest of the years, there is, around 2 millions, 2 millions and a half, or even 3, you know, because it's growing, all these years. So it's a problem that initially we may think that affect more to adults and not children. But this is just a starting point. You need to dig deeper. So if we dig deeper, what happens? What if we split that information, because we have the metrics, in children, that are in families, in adults in families, and singles? When we combine all together, it's clear that all these three, are a bigger set. But if we split that information, it's clear that the children is one of the most affected groups, and the ones that are using the shelter more. So this is a major problem for children, and the Child Services is trying to help those children in need in New York. This is a major issue. And as you can see, we are just analyzing the categories in different aggregations. So what I'm expecting from your colleagues is that they will be able to not just explaining what is happening in terms of, men versus women, families versus singles. No. They go until the last detail and then discover this, that children is a quite important group that is in risk, and they need to do something. Okay? Or what else? And then we can go man versus women. And we discovered again that it seems that men are more affected than women, and they are using more these services. But this is just description. We are not doing something that you may think, okay, what is this predictive analytics that we were explaining just a few moments ago? I said it's amazing, it's going to blow our minds, it's going to automate. Well, we will start with all questions. So in summary, what I'm expecting from these two questions is that they told me more and more people in New York is using the shelter services. The group that is more affected is children, okay, and then the parents are in that family, and then the singles, okay, and most of the time we have more men than women using those services. So let's go to the next point. Do you remember that I represent just one moment ago this? This is the collection of all the data points that represents the amount of people, the total number of individuals, the people that are using the shelter services every day. And we have those anomalies. But as you can see, by default, what I did is to represent the data from 0 up to, a range a little bit beyond the total number of people per day. What if I change the scale? What if I start understanding that what we have here is a huge collection of numbers that evolve through time, what we call a time series, and we can analyze that from the time series point of view. And time series, let me tell you one thing. We can spend hours and hours, and in particular 10 sessions, 20 sessions, just explaining time series and everything that is behind, because it's so rich, so powerful, the mathematics behind of the time series analysis. So what I'm going to do here is just a little glimpse of that, okay? For those who already know about the time series, don't get upset because we don't have time in this small case to go deeper into that. But however, the idea is, okay, we have time series. What if we just change the scale? Instead of, representing the data from 0 up to 120K, then we change the scale from, 40 up to, 120K. As you can see, when it's like doing a zoom. And when we do a zoom, in the data, something weird happens. So that means that we were thinking that everything was quite smooth except just a few days. And suddenly we discover this drop here. We need to tell Terry. Something happened here, we don't know what. In reality, what we were going to do is, for sure, you discover this, you go the dates of this range, and you search for the contextual information. What happened here? Come on, guys. It's something special. There is a huge drop. Where is the people? It's because, they moved to another city. Is because there was a winter and something horrible happened? Is because all of them, they found job and they returned to society and they don't need shelter services anymore? We need to discover. Otherwise, I'm not going to sleep forever, you know? I cannot sleep anymore. I need to know. That's part of being a data scientist. You want to know. You want to discover. This is what drives you, okay? So, and then the other question is, come on, if this is a time series, it means that maybe there are patterns, and patterns based on timeable, on the time, you know, on the seasons. If it's possible, yes or not? So it could be. So what I did is then I jumped to the other tool, and let me open the other tool. The other tool is called R, which is a statistical programming tool, and R most of the times is just a terminal. So you start, coding in a terminal, which is nothing as beautiful as you can imagine the other tool. The other tool is just drag and drop, and we are lucky that nowadays many companies, they create a graphical user interface. So we are not using anymore this kind of terminal tools. However, and one of them is RStudio. However, even though we can believe that it's user-friendly, well, it's more or less user-friendly. It's so cold. It's more or less user-friendly because this interface, the only thing that it's doing is here, you've got the terminal again. It hasn't disappeared. So you're still coding, okay? You can create code that you can encapsulate. This is the code that I use, okay? This is where the variables that you are creating, they load. And this part is where you have the output, for example, the plots that you create, the charts. And what I did is the same thing that I'm doing with the other tool that it's automated. I load the information, I clean the information, and I'm not expecting this to the other guys, but I will love to see something like this. And some situations when we do a case, there are people that, well, it's incredible. They already have knowledge about R, Python, MATLAB, and they create this amazing analysis just in 1 hour, So I love it, as you can imagine. So it's just a small analysis where you load the data, you just clean the those empty columns that you've got, then you select the ones that you want to analyze. It's just the date and the total individual data. And then you say that to the system, hey, you know what? You need to know that this is a time series. And this time series starts in August, as you already noticed, in 2013, up to 2017, June. So you define that. It's a time series. And then you just apply a few tricks, so easy, so simple, to first represent the time series, which is the auto plot that you already saw. And second is, instead of start digging deeper and deeper, because this can take a lot of time, just apply a simple algorithm that is going to decompose the time series into 4 parts, Which is the trend of the time series? Because sometimes you're not able to see the trend. You believe that the trend, it seems that it's growing, but it's not clear. Second, if there is any seasonality. Third, the difference between the seasonality, the trend, the noise. Well, we sometimes need to understand to know what is happening there. And then we have the complete series to compare all of them. So if we execute this, I'm not going to execute, we will have the output takes a little bit of time. There. We have there. So that's the beauty of, in just a few minutes, you can start having, because this is about data exploration. And then you can go deeper and deeper. Because for sure, as a data scientist, I won't stop here. I stop here because of the case, but nothing else. So this is the original time series. This is the trend, okay? And this is the seasonality. And it seems that, yes, there is a seasonality of use of the shelter services, which makes a lot of sense because when it's the beginning of the year, in New York, come on, New York, have you been there in December, January? It's a really cold city, really, really cold. So to sleep outside, it's hard. It's really hard. For sure, which means that if you have the need of those shelter services, come on, it's the right time to be there. And whenever you have a more benevolent weather, it's better to sleep outside, and you don't want to be under the regulation, because whenever you enter those shelter services, it's because they try to introduce you into a program, to go back to society. So some people, they don't want to go back to society for many reasons, So we can see a drop when we are in those months. And you can see it here. You can see a pattern. So for sure, you are giving tools theory to explain a little bit more about the story. Okay? And at the end, you have the noise. So for sure, noise and anomalies is something that we need to dig deeper to research. And this is, again, I'm repeating, and I will repeat more over again. I did this in 10 minutes, for sure. Okay? So I'm expecting in 1 hour our colleagues are able to provide me with some answers. But the reality is we need to spend more time with data set, because this is a generic analysis. What I want to be able to say is, I'm able to predict something from this series. I'm able to say what is going to happen the next month. How many beds do I need in the shelter service? How many people should be working in the shelter service to help all these people in need? So those are the real questions that once you start analyzing this, is the next step. So once you start analyzing the information, you don't stop with the initial questions. You continue because you open the door to new questions. And just to play a little bit more, I show you here the code that you already saw. So what I did is the following. Okay, what if we just do one small analysis that goes to this path to predict what is going to happen next, which is a linear regression. And probably you know about that algorithm. The idea behind is we believe that the behavior of this particular event follows a straight line. Okay? So we apply a technique that, based on this collection of points, it creates that straight line, that it's the closest to all of them. And we use that. As you can imagine, the linear regression is just the starting point of our analysis. It's just a small analysis that is going to tell us in a certain period of time if it makes sense or not. We can go deeper, we can use other more complex algorithms to try to predict and to try to fit, in a perfect fit, the behavior of this curve. Okay? But at least what they're saying, if you apply this, and here I will share later with everyone the PDF, you will see details that if you create the regression, it's a good model according to the p-value, the statistical significance of this collection of data. So that we can use it at least to see, it seems that in the future, it will continue growing the number of people using shelter if there is no changes, no shocks in the New York society. And this is what we can expect with just this small analysis. Okay? So this is what I'm expecting from our colleagues. And the last part, what they need to do. First, to choose the right database. They have several options, so they need to choose the one that fits, within the contextual geographic information of New York. Second, they need to combine the data, because the data that they have is just on monthly basis, and the data that we have is daily basis. So they need to combine that in a specific moment in time. Okay? And then what we want to do is to see if there is any kind of correlation. So we use the scatter plot. So if you do that, okay, you soon will discover one thing. But the first thing I want to represent is, how the unemployment has evolved in the context of New York. And as you can see, it's quite irregular. So it's going up, it's going down. So it seems that there is a pattern that is going down, okay, but it's quite irregular, okay? And another thing that we are discovering is that at the database that we access, hey guys, it goes from March 2016 up to March 2017. So we don't have the same amount of data. So the other thing that our colleagues should do is to reduce the amount of data of the original database to feed it, to be able to compare. We cannot compare metrics that are outside of the same time period, okay? And when we do that, what we see is that amazing scatter plot. And if you check the scatter plot, what do you think? Is there any kind of correlation that whenever unemployment goes up, then the shelter use goes up? As you can see, well, there is no clear correlation there. So that means that initially, it's not that there is no correlation. It's that the correlation at least is not linear between unemployment and the use of shelter service. It could be non-linear, which means that, again, this is a starting point. We need to start digging more. And we need to add more factors to the equation. What other factors could affect the use of shelter? So it could be interesting to combine this analysis, combining weather, season, and unemployment to see if we discover something else. But at least what I'm expecting from them, as you can imagine, is to reach this kind of output. And while we wait for them, any kind of questions? You are the lucky ones, just listening to the solution and the approach. So my recommendation is every time that you have a problem, a real problem, and that problem can be, enhanced, understood with data, you need to follow this approach. You start with questions, and you start trying to understand, trying to find those questions, to validate them, to say, yes, they are true, they are not true. But those questions will lead you to new questions, to deeper questions that will enhance, that will expand your knowledge about what you are studying. And this is the approach that we need right now, to be more scientific in every of the events that happens in our company, institutions, and society. And the funny part of this example is that this is open data. Plenty of the things that are related with society are open data, and we can help institutions, we can help governments, and we can help, citizens to live in better cities, in better countries, just because this data is available. And sometimes our governments, they don't have these kind of experts that they can spend some time digging about what is happening, how they are performing, is there any issues or gaps that need to be covered. So that's all from my side. Let's wait for our colleagues, and I'm hoping that the two winner teams, they will present their results. I'm so curious always about what they did and how they did it. But if you have any questions, or if you want to speak about something else, it's the right time. Please.
How do you decide the winners of this case? I mean, it was a predictive analysis. You can compare the actual results with the prediction, but how do you do it scripted way?
Well, in this case, what we are trying to discover is first if what they're saying it makes sense or not. Okay? For sure, when you are competing in other contests where you need to find the optimal algorithm, then you have ways to analyze that result. There is the ROC curves that measure, which is the optimal algorithm that it has more power of prediction regarding something. In this case, and it is related with business. In the context of business, okay, sometimes you cannot use the optimal algorithm. Can you imagine a situation? Can you imagine an algorithm that instead of giving you an answer in 5 seconds, it takes 2 weeks? So that happened I remember one of my jobs for a telco company, and from the business side they told me, you know what, this is not working for me. I don't want to become a data-driven company. And I say, why? Because the IT guys, they are not providing me with information. It takes 2 months, to have the information, and I need it every week. And I said, what are you doing? Can you imagine what they were doing? What you do, you need to present every week a report to the general director. Every week. You don't have the data. What you do? You have several options. Option 1. Come on, it's not so easy. Option 1, you made up the data. Yeah, you were thinking about that. You made up the data. You decided, okay, as I have a lot of experience and intuition, and my guts, they are telling me that, we are performing better than the last period. How better? I remember because I was there. I told them, you are making up the data? And they told me, yeah, well, because of my experience, I do believe that we growth at 3%. And I told them, are you sure? Are you fully sure that it's 3%? And they told me, it's true. It's not a 3%. It's a 3.5%. And I said, awesome. Good job. You can make up your data. Another approach will be that you apply a regression or any algorithm to predict the next period. But come on, if you made up all your previous information, you know what I mean? It's already fake. So fake data or wrong data with the best model, it will produce a wrong, output. So it's always about having the good data and applying the good models. So that's the funny part of these transformations into data-driven, that sometimes, as you don't have the proper systems, and that's the platform that is behind, and if the platform is not able to provide you with the data at the right time, you have access to that data, it has quality, it's secure, in order only the ones that need to access that data are going to be accessing that data. And it's not just data, it's information, because you need to make a decision. Then, if everything fails, those projects fail. And they fail a lot. Because it's not just about technology, it's not about algorithms, it's about, transforming the whole institution, the whole society towards something else. For example, one thing that I like a lot, and I'm not sure if it's going to remain true for a long time, is when United States, they applied the first chief data officer. And I thought that it was the right move. Because if you want to improve society, and it's not just about improving the cities, improving the whole country, you need to know what is happening, where are the issues, where are the problems, But maybe with the new president, we'll see what happens, if it remains as a role or not. What else? But yeah, in this case, will be more, if they are able to explain something that makes sense, even if it's slightly wrong, as a team, rather than evaluate properly. This is what we do in the program. In the program, we evaluate properly if they are able to generate the code, if they are able to have a better algorithm. So depending on the competition, the case or the assignment.
Özgür and Marcos will be with them, so they will also observe who is doing what.
So we have Marcos and Özgür as they are upstairs. They are from one side. They are guiding a little bit, not too much. I'm hoping that, because when you are there, you see them struggling. You want, because that's why I'm not part of the guiding team, because I did the case and I did the solution. So come on, it doesn't make sense. I know exactly what they need to do. So it's so easy to say, do this. It doesn't make sense. So they are upstairs. I'm hoping that they are not going to help them too much. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. But I can. Yeah, for sure. Come on. We are family right now, so I can sit down. We can speak. Tell me.
So now, yeah, you are using many tools and asking many questions about the data, but I'm wondering if there's a methodology behind asking those questions. Is there a scientific method you are applying there, or is it just experience? Like, I think the questions are rather intuitive. Like you ask, for example, about the children and single adults, but you ask more questions and broke down adults and
the questions, and that's a really good question for sure. All these issues that you want to discover are most of the times related with the domain expertise. If you don't have domain expertise, then you are not able to discover. You don't have this intuition towards what you need to discover. And that's why many times, for example, I had the chance and the opportunity to work in many industries, in retail, in finance, in governance, and then from that you gather that experience in domains. So you know exactly what, in this domain, the key issues are A, B, C, and the other one, they are the other way around. When you don't have, and that happens, you go through these programs and you are, for the first time, in a job, and you are an expert on data science, and what happens now, people with PhD, you don't have any domain of knowledge except data science, except, it could be mathematics, it could be physics. So you are really good designing the algorithm, deciding the data platform, but you have no idea about the business issues. So you need someone in your team that is going to discuss with you, what is the most critical problem in our company is this one. For example, I'm not able to know exactly what's happening with my customers. We don't know why they are leaving. Can you dig deeper into this? So you need someone from business that is able to identify those issues and prioritize all of them. Because for sure, you cannot know about everything. It's impossible. There are the domain of data scientists is so huge by itself that even though, and I differ that with Marcos for sure, that the superpowers that a data scientist should have are so incredible that you cannot be the Justice League. You know what I mean? It's the army of one is so complex. So for example, in the startup that I'm working, I'm working with neuroscientists. I don't have that domain. I'm not expecting to know about that. I'm expecting that in a few years, after speaking so many times with them, and I learn extremely fast, I will be able to discuss with the same jargon the issues that they want to discover. But nowadays my domain is another area. I can discuss about algebra, I can discuss about calculus, I can discuss about the algorithms that we can extract from those domains, I can discuss about, regressions, I can discuss about topological, and now is when I start saying jargon, topological data analysis, clustering techniques, k-means, whatever. This is my domain, and this is where I'm strong, so it's about help me to help you. Otherwise, it's like, for sure, now I have a lot of experience in several domains, and I can go faster to some questions. But every time I'm facing a new domain, I need help from my colleagues. The ones that, you're working every day in this company, you've been working here for a long time, you have the 360 point of view of the company, because, even though we say, no, we are in retail, two retail companies, they have slightly different business models. So what I'm expecting from them is that, the wheels that I need to move here and there, they're slightly different. The way you interact with the customer. Otherwise, what is those differences that make your business unique? No, but that's not really. You can continue because I can see that you have plenty of questions. Come on. In the meantime, they are not here. And this is the part that I love most. I remember one time I was in Cameroon. They invited me in Cameroon. It was just in the Ebola period, and they told me, if you are not afraid, you know, we are keeping everything safe, so you can come to the country and say, yeah, why not? I always love to discover new countries and what they are doing. So I went there, and I have the longest Q&A of all time, 45 minutes. Can you imagine? 45 minutes, one after another. And I said, oh my God. And the problem is, it was during an event. And after me, there were other sessions. And it was like, okay, we destroy completely the event, and then we have like 5 minutes to, you know, to have some drinks and some food. You know, 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. Go grab the chicken and the vegetables or whatever, the rice, and then go back, and we continue eating inside the event, because there is, otherwise we will finish at 10 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I love most is to have people that it's extremely curious about, you know, how we can improve everything using data and algorithms. And let me tell you one thing, even though I'm a strong believer that we can improve everything, you should remember one thing always. We are creating models that represents reality. And the models, by definition, are wrong. They are just a simplification of reality, which means that we need to know not only the benefits, what we discuss right now, but the limits, when they are not working. Otherwise, and that's the human part, everyone in the organization, everyone should be data savvy to know exactly where are the limits. Because technology fails. And those rely on servers, on cloud computing, or on many other technologies. What if everything fails? How are you going to work in that case? How are you going to make decisions? So you need to be aware of what they are using, specific algorithms, what they are providing to the table, and which are the limits. But this is and that opens the door as well to something else, that if they are just a simplification of reality, it means that we can research for a better model, that it gets closer and closer to the ultimate representation, which is it's just, you know, an utopia. But this is just my point of view, as you can imagine.
This woman in Turkey, the owner of Tabit,
Yeah.
that's working on the, agricultural productivity.
Which is an amazing example.
For farmers. She told me that now the agricultural society is finding out how the crop yields are related to polar belt activity rather than the local rains and local weather and these kind of things. There is also another factor that is coming from the weather activity just around the northern polar belt. I think that was also because of the importance of this vicinity to the European continent. She was giving me examples.
That's the beauty of
overlapping the daily data with the polar activity data, and then feeding it back to. I don't like to use the word ignorant, but people of these simple farmers with not all of the capabilities.
Well,
but passing that information to them was making a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the beauty of this, no? That you can deeply transform an industry that initially you may think in agriculture, why we are going to use data? But you can start, understanding the density of the soil, You need to be aware the amount of water that every different crop needs, because everyone is, a different world. Because it depends a lot if the leaves are bigger or smaller. My grandpa was working he was a farmer, and he was an expert on olive trees. And there is a huge theory behind how to cut an olive tree to generate certain specific types of olives. He tries to give me that knowledge, and I said, Grandpa, I'm so sorry, I'm into mathematics. And he told me, too bad, we are going to lose this knowledge. But for sure, what we're doing right now is to introduce all this domain of knowledge into the systems to discover, so when is the best time to plant a specific crop, how is the best way to treat that specific, or how the effect of water in a specific illness, if they need a lot of water, but if they have an illness, and then you use the normal amount of water, what is going to use to kill them, all of the crops. So because we are expanding all these models there is a company in Spain that is called Cubenube, and they are doing that for example, wineries for the producers of oil, but nowadays they jump into the football teams. You know, when football teams in Spain, there are some parts of where you have a lot of rain and other parts that there is a lot of hot. So, come on. If you're a team as a football club Barcelona, I'm a supporter. Sorry, guys. I don't know if someone follows the Real Madrid, but so they need the stadium to be perfect because part of their game is based on the speed the ball is running through the field. So that needs that everything should be in the right state. And the right state means that the right amount of sand, the right amount of water, the right amount of components to make everything grow perfectly. So they are using those techniques that were just from farmers up to sports, which is, I love it, this pollination between different industries. So the next time you discover something that can be applied to an industry, maybe in just a few months you can discover that you can apply that to another one, which is related but it's not the same. They are coming, finally. Awesome. Tell me. Mm-hmm. Well, part of the process that we were discussing, you know, this process, business understanding, data understanding, data preparation, modeling, you know, and evaluation. When you reach evaluation is when you start reviewing the output and the predictive power of that specific algorithm. And it could be in every of those stages that you discover that, you know what, the amount of data that I have is not enough. I need to extend. The data quality that I have is not enough. I need to work on data quality, which is another project, completely different of these sites. And you can stick there, months and months. And this is what many companies are finding right now, that data quality is one of the top issues, that they have sometimes a lot of data, but it's, it's not good enough to apply any kind of model. So they need to enrich. And you can reach this point, okay, the evaluation, and there is something quite beautiful in everything, that you create a model, and for a while it performs properly. But every model nowadays is like, you know the duality between the particle and the light? You know that happens that you can, if you know exactly what is the particle, then you don't know which is the speed and the other way around. Something similar happens here. Whenever you're applying a model to something, you are in some way influencing the behavior of that specific thing. You are crystallizing the behavior. So what happens is that step by step we are producing, because we make actions based on that model, we are changing the behavior. At one moment in time, you know, the people, the objects, the processes, they start behaving in a different way that is not reflected in the model. So there is a new trend, a new area of research in the context of machine learning and algorithms that tries to incorporate that. What if that we are analyzing changes because the effect of the model, okay, or is able to recognize that there is a model against them? So one approach is adversarial machine learning. And another thing that is awesome as well is, come on, we are not discussing about privacy. But privacy is a major topic as well. So we need to use those algorithms, but always within the regulation of the country on protecting personal data. So there are new algorithms that I love them, that are considering that what if data cannot be used or always going to belong to the customer? Okay? So there are things like privacy differential, which considers that think that I have here. Yeah, for sure. For example, our smartphones. So they have machine learning here. You execute the machine learning. You send the model, the original model, and then the data that is here is never going back to the data center. It's never going back to the company. Always belong only in the device of the customer. And then what you send back, because you want to improve your model, is the model. So try to imagine you have thousands of users and you send back thousands of variations of a model and try to combine all of them in a new model. And as you can imagine, this is not an easy task. This is a huge challenge because not all the models can be combined in an easy way. But this is part of the, or others, what they are applying is that we mask the data, we send it back, but we mask the data, and this way we cannot recognize who was the owner. Or others consider that, we are going to create, and I was reading a paper just 2 weeks ago, just a paper just published, that it's about synthetic data. So you create a model, okay, which you believe that represents your reality, and then based on that model, the algorithm creates data that fits the model, so you have data to play, to train further the algorithms, okay, but it's completely synthetic, so you never use customer data. It's so advanced that I need to read it a couple more times to see if it's feasible to be implemented in real time or not, or we need to wait for quantum computing. But it's so interesting because there are so many things at the same time happening, taking into consideration regulation, you don't have data, you need an automated process to enhance data quality, so an amazing field to spend a lot of time, digging deeper and deeper. And I'm not the only one who is crazy about this. Hey, where are the guys? They have until 5:10 and it's 5:16, That means they have plenty of groups at the end, which could be the case.
There are a lot of groups actually.
Because at the beginning we have 4, and then I think that others, they decide to be created.
Our office is kind of full now.
Now, the problem is today at 7 I'm speaking in the collective house.
Yes.
So I need to return to, need to go there. And I will be speaking about, what is the topic? The next time that you think about creating a product or a service, think about data and algorithms. That's the topic. Oh, welcome back. It's awesome. It's not awesome? I was waiting for you.
They were waiting outside.
They were waiting outside. Did you enjoy the case? I can see some faces that yes or not. The survivors,
Yes.
which means that some people disappear.
So we have 2 groups. They're going to give you a brief presentation.
Awesome.
So you can go up, and we can help you maybe plug your computer.
Yeah, let's see. If you can't hook up the computer, you can just call.
So, a lo mejor necesitan el HDMI, ¿eh?
This is the connection. ¿Y yo?
Es la de PC normal.
Sí, esta es la HDMI.
I don't have it with me. Do you have the case questions with you? I didn't bring it with me. It's upstairs.
Yeah, well, they were in my computer. Yeah, you have it? Awesome. Take care that it's dangerous.
All right. Introduce yourselves briefly and then.
So, hi everyone. I'm Cengiz.
Do you want to take the mic? Altında düğmesi.
Yeah, I think it's on. As I said, I'm Bilgece Gündoğdu. I'm an undergraduate student at Koç University. I study industrial engineering and economics.
Hi. Actually, I have no idea what I'm doing here because I'm a social scientist. I graduate from Istanbul University at Political Science and I study economics also. I'm working for Deloitte right now. My company sent me here. Which that I like.
Go there.
Believe me, I really want to be here. After that, I will go to work. I'm working as an innovation specialist in there, and I really just want to know what's data and big data, what can I do, what can I learn about it. It's just my new interesting area. Then we did something in there. I hope, I know it won't be satisfy you, but we tried. Thank you.
Maybe it's a good idea to start with saying that we didn't have enough time, to put the output that we wanted, but we did the best in the time that we had.
That was the idea.
What?
That was the idea, to
So you did well.
do the best what you have.
So we have 3 questions. Are you already familiar with the questions, or do you want me to repeat them?
You don't need to explain the questions because I already explained the solution of the case to them.
Okay. So we first wanted to know what type of individuals are more in need. So doing the percentages, we found out that the majority of the individuals staying in shelters were children with families. So we concluded that maybe it would be a better idea to provide shelters with their educational and psychological needs so that they'd have not a very traumatic experience, maybe being homeless. So here also you can see, I don't know, it's a bit small, but you can see the percentages per year in the last column. It's in yellow. Yeah, we see that in 2013 it's 9%, and then in 14, 15, and 16 it raises up to 27, and then in 2017 we have 10%. So from 2013 and to 14 we see that there's a lot of increase, but then again we had only the data until August, so maybe it's because of that. And then it's a bit in Turkish, but we have the seasonalities, and we see that the most demanded shelter season is winter, so probably it may be a good idea to have some additional space used as shelters that are not originally used as shelters in the other months, so that the demand can be met, because especially when the winter month is the most challenging to survive on the street. Yeah, I think that would conclude our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, it's Esra. Actually, I'm a freelancer research techniker, I call myself. Instead of writing my thesis, I'm here. It's a kind of a procrastination for me, but it's good to be here. So this is our presentation called Better Than Nothing. But first, I want to just mention about how in a very small amount of time what we did. I used SPSS For the second question, it was the same question the previous group actually present. Is there any seasonality effect in the use of shelter services? So I just made a new variable called season. So the winter months are winter so far. And this is the whole result. Actually, I use this before I start. No, not this one. Sorry. Okay. I just use those kind of graphs to understand what I have in my database. So here it says the adults are more. There are more adults in shelters rather than children, but still the amount of children is not really rare. So I can suggest some programs for children as well. So the results are the same. The winter seasons is the most people who takes care in the shelters with families with children and also families without children. So the least group is the adult families and also the adult women in shelters. So we need to figure out where those women goes to actually. So maybe we need women's shelters instead because they're not using those services which the DHS provide. So yeah, that's all actually. I also don't know what am I doing here. Yeah.
Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Esra. By the way, we also did some, segregations like the adults comparatives, like in the spring. The single man is more in the spring, like that. Anyway, what kind of information do I need to share? I don't know. But yeah, I have a sociology major. I like using SPSS with syntax, but today I couldn't use it. So that's all, yeah.
And then your group member?
My name is Kerim Acar. I'm in MEF Üniversitesi, and we did this presentation, and we are happy for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was...
Okay, so let me say a few words to everyone. First of all, as I know that the first time you face a real challenge, or something linked to reality, it's not easy. You don't know what to expect. You don't know almost nothing, and you need to be fast. In this case, you have a limitation. You have only 1 hour, and go straight to the point and trying to answer the questions. And the more you work in real experience, the easier for you will be to develop this kind of projects. I have plenty of experience, and I don't want to discourage you, but you can solve this case quite easy. I don't want to tell you the time, okay? So thank you so much for your effort. I know that it was not easy, okay? I know that you need to put yourself into another shoes. And the shoes, they were from Terry. Okay, so it's good that you found several things. Like it's good that you found that in winter, it's really harsh in New York, and that's part of the context. I don't know if you have been there, but it's horrible. You can freeze to death. And the second thing, and that was found by Group 1, it's true. It's true that if we just consider the category adults versus children, it seems that it's much bigger. But when you split adults and you discover the single man, the single women, and the families, the adults in families, then children, it becomes a really, really, really important group. It's important as a group in risk. And for sure, being an adult, it's easier to cope with this situation than if you are children. Okay? So, advice for the future. Everything is about storytelling. Everything is about, even though you just answer 1 or 2 questions, if you're able to explain properly those 2 questions, then you have done your job, okay? And the art of storytelling this is part of being humankind. We explain stories all the time. When you go to the cinema and you watch the last film, when you explain to your colleague what you did last summer, you know? So remember, explaining the output of an algorithm, explaining exactly what happened, the insights, it's about storytelling. And this is part of the skills that you need to remember that you can reuse. So the next time you present something, in any case, create a story. So this is what I did when you were not here. I explained the story of Terry. No? I explained the story of what I need to do to help Terry. And I explained plenty of other things because I speak too much, and that's a problem for me and for the people that listens to me. So, and we need to go, and I can see Marcos that is worried. No, but that's the reality. So remember, and when I was listening to you guys, and I'm so happy that you reached some kind of conclusions, is that first, who was explaining better than the others, who was providing some of the key insights, okay, I was expecting, okay? So do I need to tell already the winners? Yeah. So in my humble opinion, I think that the first group did, I don't know, you don't have a name, so I was expecting name, no, you know, the code breakers, the I don't know, whatever. So first group did better in terms of what I was expecting. So congratulations of your work. And congratulations to everyone. Because I know that it's not easy at all to face these challenges for the first time. So thank you so much for your effort. And I know that you have a small detail.
This is one for you. Thank you so much. For you. And there is the other group. Thank you. I have one. So one of you will get this, and the other one I'll give you at school. Thank you very much. Congratulations again.
Hope you enjoy, you know, this case and the event, and what we try to highlight, which is majority of time was about how data and algorithms can transform society, and how can we generate good based on data. So thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you next time.